I might be to your left. You know, he's legendary HBCU guy, and we got this other cat that's he's a PWI guy. You know, so you know, and you know we gotta tease him, Doug. See, I can call Doug Williams. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Can you call you know, I don't know, Tom Brady? No.
Nah,
You know,
it's
this was about college, baby.
hey,
You know,
you know that, Coach. This is a tremendous honor for me. Doug Williams has always been someone that I looked up to. I remember when he was. I don't remember when he was drafted, but I remember in his playoff game, if I'm not mistaken, he beat my Dallas Cowboys. That's the first time I ever cried because the Cowboys lost the game. I was wondering how did we lose to the Tampa Bay Bucks, Coach. But he's a man. Everything that you've done for black college, HBCUs, and NFL quarterbacks, particularly black quarterbacks, I want to personally thank you because this ushered into this golden era of black quarterbacks that we have now. Doug, it's because of the path that you trailblazed almost over 40 years ago. And so, I want to start this question off by asking you that. Looking back, what the NFL is now. In 1978, were you drafted?
In 78, right.
1978. Could you have imagined what the NFL would be today?
Well, you know, it would have been hard to see it from what it is today from back there. You know, at that time, James Harris was playing backup, I think, in San Diego, the Rams, and then you had a man over at from SC. What's his name?
Vince Evans.
Vince Evans was at Chicago, but Vince came there in 79, I think. 78. No, he came a year before me. But he wasn't starting. He was running back kickoff and doing a whole lot of stuff. And then Warren Moon, unfortunately, had to go to Canada. Back then, you know, the owners, the head coaches, and a lot of other people just didn't see a black quarterback playing. You know, fortunately for me, you know, I had John McKay as the head coach, who had coached Jimmy Jones back in 1968 out of SC. So black quarterback wasn't a thing for him. And then Joe Gibbs, who the only coach in the NFL that came down to Grambling was Joe Gibbs, and spent 2 days down there. You know, he went back to Tampa and told John McKay that if we want a franchise quarterback, we need to draft a kid from Grambling. But, you know, I say that to say guys like James Harris, Marlon Briscoe, and Jimmy Ray, all those guys didn't get the opportunity that I was fortunate enough to have. And I look back what I was able to accomplish, and I wonder what they would have been able to accomplish if they had been given the chance or the opportunity to play in the league, which they wasn't doing at that particular time. So you look at today's time, man, it's a no-brainer. It ain't about black, it ain't about white, it's about who can get the job done. We started this season off in the NFL with 15 starting black quarterbacks. Wow. And I had just said this probably about a year or so ago that eventually the league was going to be half black, not knowing that it was going to be that quick. And, you know, we had the 3 young guys come in this year. We're going to have some more come in next year. So, you know, it's going to be one of those situations where, you know, you're going to have at least, let's say, half or more of the quarterbacks going to be of color. And ain't nothing you can do about it. And it ain't nothing you can say about it. You got to let them play. If you want to win today, it seems like you almost got to have the Lamar Jackson and the Jaden Daniels and the Caleb Williams and the Mahomes and Russell Wilson and people like that on your team.
Oh, that's
Coach, you really are the Jackie Robinson of HBCU first black quarterback. When you threw those 4 touchdowns and won that game, Coach, you actually really, looking back on it, Coach, you took a sledgehammer and just broke all the glass that says that a black quarterback can be a pocket passer and he can win the big game. You know, so that it was it. Go ahead, Cam. I know you look, Doug Hill got his G-man back drop.
I see him.
He a Florida A&M. Hell, every time we be on the show, he got some orange and green on. You ain't no Grambling guy, man.
As they say, Mr. Williams,
Doug.
Hall of Fame, HBCU player, Super Bowl champion. I had to do this for you.
Okay.
Because
Appreciate it.
I'm 54 years old. And you're going to understand something what I'm about to say. When I say you were so many people's hero, my age, from the time, because first of all, I'm from Jackson. And you beat them Tigers. You won 3 SWAC championships, beating Jackson State 3 years in a row, I know at least. Because I was at 2 of those games. We saw you go to Tampa Bay, and I want people to understand something. Those creamsicle jerseys, this man made those jerseys famous for black people, who threw to another HBCU player, Jimmy Giles, a tight end. People don't remember that.
I had 2 of them. I had Isaac Hagan from Southern.
And Southern, I was getting ready to say.
Yeah.
So far as that HBCU pride, Tampa Bay was actually Black America's SWAC team. I'm telling you, because everybody knew that Doug Williams was down there and saw what they did. And to the Rockets' point, beat America's team, when they went to the NFC Championship game, beat Philadelphia, and barely lost to the Rams. Should have went to the Super Bowl. So, and this is when I'm a young kid. And then when I'm getting ready to graduate high school, and my mother and my father, my father's from Washington, D.C., and that was their team, known as the Redskins at the time. And my mother, who's from Jackson and lived in D.C., was like, Doug Williams, to break these records and then have to answer the question, how long have you been a black quarterback? So I had to set up all this to say how much I appreciate what you have done for the culture, because it means so much for a person my age. And I think we have a lot of younger people who watch, and I think they think the world started in 2000, but they have to understand it was people like yourself that, again, Joe Gibbs, who saw you, who then later coached you to a Super Bowl, that had the foresight to say, this guy could be a first-round pick. Now, with that being said, what my setup is, you've done a lot of things, and I know there's a lot of challenges, but you working in the front office and doing it. You brought Martez Carter up there, a Grambling guy that I followed. Talk about what you have tried to do in your position to really expose this next generation of HBCU players to the NFL.
Yeah, and I can say this, unfortunately, it's not as easy as it was back in the day. When I'm talking about the Walter Payton days, and I can remember in 73, 74, Jackson State had about 9 guys drafted, and Grambling had 8 the same year. And unfortunately, with integration and everything come in, it don't work that way anymore. Now if we're fortunate enough to get 1 or 2, if we're fortunate enough to get drafted, even signed as a free agent. But I was looking at the roster today, and we do have a few guys from HBCUs in the league. Matter of fact, I got one on the team now from here from Norfolk State. He's on the practice squad, Price. Him and I was talking the other day, and I said, hey, man, why you didn't tell me he was from Morgan? He said, I didn't want to say anything, Coach. I said, you could tell me, but the key is what we try to do, especially with the Black College Football Hall of Fame and the Legacy Bowl, is to get them on the stage. But young players got to understand this too now. Just because you're playing football, you don't walk into the NFL. It's not going to happen like that. You got scouts, you got a lot of people, and they go through so much, man. Sitting in that office, sitting in that room, it's amazing how, they get to a certain guy and they cut him up pretty much sometimes. You sit there and say, damn. And then you go back and the things that they're looking for, and you kind of see some of it. But what you like to do, the Legacy Bowl for me and Shaq, to talk to these guys, let them know, you're not going to make the NFL on 1 year. It starts when you get there, if that's what you want to do. You got to start preparing. You got to go to class, but you got to go to workout. You got to do things you want to do. And then you got to have the talent to bring with you. That's all part of it. And it's kind of tough sometimes when you're talking to parents and stuff about, especially how these ladies are about their babies now. My baby can play. And I used to always ask the question, I say, ma'am, I say, you say he can play, I understand that, that's your baby. But who else say they can play? See, that's the key. You're not going to make the decision. It's going to be somebody else who got to give them a grade, give them a write-up. Just today, I was just looking on the computer and, just looking at all the guys that we have down as at HBCUs and see who got a grade on them, see how many guys are rejected and stuff. And it makes you sickening for a while when you look at it. But you understand, because they're not the only one. They do the same thing at the big school. They do the same thing at the small school and the black college. They do all of them the same way. So I don't want them to feel guilty about that, but I want them to put forth an effort. And I think we all got you coaches and Johnny, you coach before, you understand this. Everybody on your team is not going to play in the NFL. You might have one or two guys now in black college that might have the talent to go to camp and probably end up making it if they got that heart and that desire to get it done. I think that's what we got to do from a coach's standpoint. Is don't try to sell the people on everybody on your team, because everybody on your team ain't gonna make it.
Right.
You got to know who I'm gonna say it like this, who your dogs are. Who can make the league and who can stand and who understand what the league is all about. Sometimes, and not only players from HBCU, but players from the big schools, they get there and you know what? I got it made. And next thing you know, they out of there because that ain't the way it works. Like I tell these young guys all the time, man, hey, look, whatever you're doing, do whatever you could to stay here as long as you can. And when you get out of here, you put yourself in position to do whatever you want to do. But you got to do that first. Football, when you go to the NFL, it's all about football. It ain't about nothing else. They don't care about nothing else. They're going to do what they could to help you and your family. But you know what? Other than that, they don't care. They want you to come to work every day, be prepared, and get on the field and make things happen.
Now, oh, man.
Another thing I was talking, Doug, today. I'm sorry, Rocky, for
no problem.
I teach now, and I'm teaching. I'm in middle school, and I'm talking to kids about your attitude determines your altitude. And you kind of just saying, not only do you have to come in there and be able to play the game and know the game, you got to have the right attitude. Meaning, I'm coming here to make it, number one, but I got to be on time. I got to talk their lingo, and that's what a lot of kids don't understand. They think just the talent is going to take them. I got some kids now in my middle school that their attitudes is terrible. So they play for the club team. And they think, oh, well, we got the best team. I said, you do, but you practice outside. The attitude is to get inside. So,
right.
Inside gym where you got the cheerleaders, you got people want to come see you play. Nobody's coming to see the boys club team. Everybody come to see the team.
Right.
So
I'm
glad you said that, Coach, about
you're right.
It's the total picture.
Yeah, it is. And everything is about a culture. Every morning, man, we have team meeting every morning, and sitting in that team meeting, and I've been to a lot of team meetings. I mean, I'm going into my 11th year here in Washington. And with the new regime, with Dan and with Adam, I mean, it's amazing what they have brought in here. I mean, because Jaden Daniel, we 7-2. We're a lot further along than a lot of people expect for us to be. But of course, we got Jaden, but it's a lot more than Jaden. It's a brotherhood. It's a believing in each other. It's working together. And you talking about, I heard you say on time, man. When they tell you meeting is at 10, they don't mean you walk in the room at 10. That ain't the way it works. If you're on time, you're late. And you'll be surprised when you go down there and you got 9 o'clock meeting and everybody's sitting in the room at 8:45, or 8:20 or whatever. I mean, that's the way it is. They waiting on the meeting because they waiting to get knowledge. They waiting to learn what I got to do today to get better. And what you're saying, Johnny, is exactly right. And in 8th grade and that middle school, they really don't understand. But somebody got to pull them aside and let them understand what you're talking about if they want to go to the next level. If they want to go to high school and play and be a good player, you're gonna have to do the same thing, man. It's a step ladder kind of. It don't start at the top. It started from the bottom.
All right, cool. We talked about your executive side with the Commanders and all that. I want you to put your coaching hat on, baby. You won your 3 Black College National Championship. You was the Dion before Dion. Of course, your personality is a lot different. You know what I mean? You took over from the great Eddie Robinson. So I'm gonna ask you a 2 question. What did you learn from Eddie? The basics of why he won all the time, and how you were able to come into Grambling and get them back going, because the old man was getting old. They were falling off a little bit, and you came right in and went straight to the top.
Well, number one, having gone to Grambling, you understand how Grambling works. Number one, that for me, that's the way it works. But how Grambling work, I feel the same way about all the HBCUs. Because back in the day when there was Southern, there was Jackson State and Texas Southern. Everybody kind of worked the same way. You go out and you recruit some young guys and come in and build the program. Now, if you're gonna get transferred, that's one thing. But you got to build it first. You got to have a foundation. And when I went into Grambling, the first thing I did was say, you know what, let's go get a bunch of young guys who want to play and can play a little bit,
Hey,
and
Doug,
let them grow.
can I stuff you in there? And you went and worked at other schools before you came in. You were prepared to be the head coach. But go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you're right. And, I had an opportunity to do other schools. I went to the Naval Academy. I went to Morehouse. I worked at Southern in '85. A lot of people don't know that. And you tend to watch what other people do. And what I did was took from playing for John McKay, playing for Joe Gibbs, and of course playing for Coach Rob. And what I try to do, what they did, and that is learn your players, number one, who you're playing with. And I can say this, Coach Rob was one of them guys that coached every position on the team. That's why we stayed on the field so long, 3 hours and a half, because he was going to go around to every position and coach them. I used to tell him all the time, Coach, you got your coaches on welfare. They don't work. You coaching them. And he started laughing, but hell, that's the way he was. And that's why he was who he was. And Joe Gibbs had this thing where Joe Gibbs was one of the guys that knew every player on the team. I used to watch him sometime on the sideline and how he watched the game. And when a player do good, he know whether or not he need to give him a thumb up or whether or not he need to pat him on the back. When a guy mess up, he knew what he had to do, go talk to him or what have you. But he was probably one of the coolest game and adjuster that you ever been around. But he knew how to talk to players. He believed in character. And I thought character goes a long way. And John McKay was one of them guys that would just straight out tell you exactly how he done. If you can't do it, you get the hell out of here. That was John McKay. But you do that, man, and it's about getting the people. And football is people. I don't care how you cut it up. The players got to be able to like each other. And that's what we do now here in Washington, man. It's something to see. Like, we traded for Marshawn Lattimore, I think yesterday, and just watching him today in that meeting, man, you can tell he had never been in a meeting like that. Never. Team meeting usually lasts 4 or 5 minutes. Our team meeting lasts 20 minutes, 25 minutes if we have to, because Dan do such a great job of going over practice and what we did and showing them what we got to get right and stuff like that. And it's one of those meetings that you don't have time to get bored. Everybody be in it. And I think that's what has to happen. Even in college, I think, you got to find a way now with all this stuff, the transfer portal and all that. I know that's out there. People go out and get 20, 25 transfer and think you're going to build a team. The chance you build a team out of 25 or 30 guys from other places is slim and none. Is a reason why they in the transfer portal. And that's why I say you got to build a foundation first. You go out and recruit some young guys, man. And if there's 1 or 2 players out there that you need to help your team, that's one thing. And you might take some lumps early, but at the end of the day, when they grow up, and that's what I said when I first went to Grambling, was, I brought some puppies in there, and when they got to be big dogs, you didn't have to do nothing. They knew exactly what we had to do. And then now all you got to do is just start replenishing what you already have.
Go ahead, Rocky. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna bring up. I know you as a football player, your career very well. However, being just introduced to the HBCU space, I wasn't as familiar with your history as a coach in this league. Right? As I do my research, I realize how successful you were, not only as a player at Grambling, but also as a coach. What I'd like to ask you is, and in looking at your staff, there were also coaches that came out of your staff that ended up doing very well in the coaching profession. What is going on with coaching right now in HBCU football, in that there's a lot of turnover, there's a lot of coaching failures, subsequently, there's a lot of coaching hires. And what can be done to make that situation more sustainable over time? Because I see that as being a huge issue in the SWAC moving forward, with programs turning over coaches every 2 or 3 years.
Well, let me say this, and not because Johnnie is on here. Number one, when you look at all the coaches that are hired every year in the SWAC, man, it's kind of hardening when you look at who they hire. And just because a guy played in the NFL, went to another school, don't make him that coach. You got a lot of guys that went to HBCUs who should be coaching, and Johnnie is one of them. Number one, you talk about offense. I think it's a tragedy that nobody in the SWAC or MEAC or SIAC somewhere have not hired Johnnie to be quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, head coach, or what have you. So I think what happened, we got caught up, number one, on Deion, especially today. Everybody's looking for Deion. There's only one Deion. Right. And you're not going to find him anymore. And everybody think because he went there, he played at Power 5 school, he can coach here. Let me tell you something. Black college ain't the easiest place in the world to coach, because it ain't just coaching. Your office got to be open 24/7. Because you got to be the register, you got to be the housing director, you got to be the cafeteria guy, you got to do it all. And that's the problem right there that they don't understand. And you know what? They really don't care, because all they want to do is coach. And I'm just saying that, man. And I think some of these presidents, some of these ADs got to get off the high horses and hire people who understand black colleges and who want the kid to do good. That's the key. They got to want to be there. A lot of guys is there for a stepping stone per se, and ain't nothing wrong with getting a promotion. I was happy as hell Deion got the job at Colorado, because that's the whole objective of coaching, is to move up. But you got to give somebody a chance who know what they're doing, number one. So that's my take on it.
Well, we're excited to have you here, Coach. And I know I need to get one in before I let Coach get in. Coach, on your 25th anniversary, you had came back to Grambling and won the championship. And I want to say it was in 2013. You came back, let me get Grambling right. You won the championship. Coming into your 25th year of winning the Super Bowl, you actually got let go on the second or third year. Instead of Grambling, HBCU having a ceremony to raise money on your 25th anniversary, they letting you go and fighting over parking spaces. Coach, I know, Coach. It drove a stake in my heart when my university done what they done to me. Explain your situation. I know, Coach, you came there to do things right. You had contacts to make this university, because you came back, I guess, just to get them back straight.
Yeah, you know what? That's I wanted to come back, and I had been there before, and what we did before at the complex, it's not a lot of parking area out there. When I was there before, I bought signs out of my money and put every coach's name and stuff in a parking space, and that way, every day they came, couldn't nobody take their parking spot because it was theirs. So in my second term, then, and I did the same thing. I just put everybody's name in this space, and we had a president who, I guess the way I always look at it, that he wanted you to kiss the ring. I wasn't in the kissing mode. I wasn't gonna kiss the ring per se, because I didn't feel like I had to. And I remember one practice, we were in the middle of practice one day, and practice going, and he come to the sideline and beckoned me over. I said, okay. I went over, talked to him. I thought he was coming to watch practice myself. And he said, hey, get them parking signs down. I got some people coming to. I said, Doc. I say, these coaches don't have parking space. You don't put no park. You don't own nothing here. I said, Doc, I understand that. Well, you can't put none up there. I said, okay. So he had his people who work in facility come and take them all down and kept them. I had bought them all. He wouldn't even give them back to me. That's the other part about it. And after we played ULM, the second game of the year, I went in his office and he had a brown envelope, and he gave it to me. He said, "I'm going another direction." I just said, "Okay, that's fine with me." And I just turned around. I told his secretary, who's sitting at the desk, Judy Jackson, who actually I went to school with. Judy had her head down. She didn't want to see me. I said, "Hey, Judy, tell your president he visited. I live here." So I left. And that spring, and to be honest with you, they actually fired him that spring. He was looking for an extension, and they fired him that spring. But, at the end of the day, where I am today, I look at it now, everything happened for a reason. But if it was left up to me, I would have still been at Grambling, to be honest with you, because that's what Grambling meant to me. As a matter of fact, all the HBCU mean the same thing to me, because I want to see them all succeed, but I would have probably still been at Grambling.
Yeah.
Wow. And so that kind of answers my question before Mr. Campbell. That kind of leads into the next question is, I was going to ask, why don't we have Eddie Robinsons, W.C. Gordons, guys like that in HBCU football anymore? And you kind of answered that question for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of missed it. Kind of like we froze. I think.
My apologies. What I was saying, I was going to ask you why in this current era we don't have the W.C. Gordons or the Eddie Robinsons or the coaches that get long runways to build and sustain programs. And if anybody should have had the opportunity to do that, it would have been you. But you kind of answered that question for me. It seems like meddling by the administration tends to again, that's what it sounds like to me from the outside. It's not that administrations come in to support the coaches. It's almost to supplant your star coach. And for whatever reason, like Coach Cole says this all the time. You don't have 30,000 people showing up to a math, a spelling bee, or a math exhibit, or a math seminar.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, HBCU culture, the administration is just not willing to accept that the football coach is the face of the university.
Yeah.
Let me say another thing too before we get the question in. Let me say this. When you see people at the Bayou Classic, the Classic in Birmingham, Classic, everybody who had Classic, right? Who are the first person to be on the stage?
The president.
The president. For what? You look at all other schools, man. You don't see the president close to the field. You think the president? Oh, we don't even know that president of Alabama. We don't know, but he wasn't coming on no field taking no trophy. He ain't sweated. He ain't did nothing. And I think that's what has happened to black colleges more than anything, is that the administrator want to take most of the credit for what happened on the field. Yeah. And that's a problem. That's an issue. But eventually, I don't think it's going to ever change, because they've been doing it for years. Believe me, for years. And they feel like that's what I got to do. And they forget that they're president. Sometimes they forget that they're president and ADs, and you got a job. And everybody know your job. If you're in the AD office, you got AD on your door. And then the president, you got president on the door. Then you got the coach. So you let the coach, and you go out and raise money, AD and president. And, if a guy ain't doing well, he been there for a while, whatever decision you make, that's fine. But give him what he needs to work with and let him coach the boys.
Yeah. Coach, man, is just so that, we used to go on the SWAC tour. And I had the opportunity to go on the SWAC tour in 86. And Eddie, Marino, W.C. Gordon, Gunslinger, they all sit up front. And you know how we used to sit in the back. And I remember they were discussing about how this conference is going to change when people take over that ain't never threw a football and never all these administrators going to get involved. And I'll be damned if it's 40 years later, it has changed.
No, ain't no question. It happened, man. And, I just hate the way the way they go by hiring coaches. That's the thing that get me. And then if you can call and recommend somebody, oh, yeah, that's fine. They don't even think about that. It ain't like I'm going to recommend somebody who can't coach. I'm trying to help them. I ain't trying to set them back. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, you just keep doing what you're doing.
I know we letting you out. Hey, Rocky. Now, what
Yeah.
you say about being hard in the SWAC? You don't need a what?
Oh, you talking about your frat brother, your homeboy?
They don't hire folks by your resume.
No. They don't look at your resume. So one of the things that used to struggle when I first got into space and started covering the space, Doug, they would hire guys that I weren't familiar with. It's naturally that I wasn't familiar with them. I wasn't familiar with HBCU coaching, and a lot of these guys are lifers in HBCU football. So it's not a problem that I don't know the guy. But when I ask who this guy is, they'll say, "Oh, he the president's frat brother." I said, "But what that got to do with his football resume? What that got to do with it? Why was he hired as coach? Oh, he was the classmate of so and so, or he knows this person or that person." And so, whereas on other levels of football, coaching hire made head coaching hires, I will say, are made generally resume only. You're not hiring a guy because of who he's related to at the head coaching position. Now, you may get the experience because you're somebody's dad, but if you're going to be the man, the head coach, it's usually because you've won somewhere before, you've had some level of success, or even you've shown some promise in some area of coaching. In HBCU football, over the last 4 years that I've been involved in it, I think I counted them up. It's been about 20-some coaching hires, because a lot of schools have already, in 4 years, have already hired 2 coaches since I've been coaching. But I'll ask a guy, "Hey, this guy's been a real estate agent for the last 10 years. How did he get this job as coaching?" "Oh, that was his line brother. That was his line brother. That was his line. His line brother's the president, or his line brother's the AD." And those are the kind of things that have been done. Some of them work out, most of them don't, Doug. And so that's why.
And let me say this: the other part is, you know, I think about my coaching staff when I first went to Grambling. I kept 2 guys that Coach Rob had, you know, trying to do Coach Rob for 1 year. You know, but I had to spend that year with them to understand that, you know, they can't do this. But they did it for Coach Rob. Like I told you, Coach Rob helped them coach. He coached most of the position. But I had Mike Roach. You know why I hired Mike Roach? Mike Roach had played football at Southern University. But I hired Mike because he also had a job at the detention center in Baton Rouge. And I watched Mike. I went to one day, and I watched how he handled kids. I'm talking about teenage boys. And I said to myself, I need Mike Roach to coach with me. So Mike came. I had Todd Bowles, who the head coach at Tampa Bay was my other first coach I hired at Morehouse College as my defensive coordinator. And he followed me to Grambling my first year.
Wow.
So I had Todd Bowles and Mike Roach. Hype from Northern. When I was scouting for Jacksonville, Hype was playing safety at Southern University. And, you know, I was down there scouting and stuff like that. And we had a pro day at Southern University. You know what I walked up to Heiss say? Because I knew Heiss was smart. He could play, but he didn't have the ability to play in the league. And I told Heiss, I said, "Man, if I ever get a job, I'm going to hire you." And when I got a job, I brought Heiss Norton with me. You know, and I brought my cousin Melvin Spears with me, who had coached at Morehouse College and a couple more places. And Melvin, you know, he's one of them guys, he try to run your team sometime, and you just got to put him in his place. That's all you got to do. you can't let him run it, you know, but he's a hell of a coach now. Smart is all outdoors. And you know, a couple guys, they didn't play with me. I hired guys, not so much they went to Grambling, but eventually I got a couple guys but they was coaching from somewhere else and brought them in. You know, you got to get a staff that can work with young men, but at the same time, they got to be able to coach.
Yeah, and those guys went on to be head coaches as well.
Yeah.
You know, Heisman Northern, Melvin Spears.
Even Byron Brown up in Lane right now.
Right.
You know?
Go ahead, Coach Campbell. We saw
y'all been holding Coach Campbell out, man. Y'all ain't giving.
Hey, look, at least we ain't talking about Florida A&M.
Now listen, Doug, listen. One of the things I gotta say this, why I love Grambling. I have a business, and I was able to sponsor Grambling. They were the first school that allowed me to work with them. They saw that I was an HBCU alum. didn't have no resume, but they said, you know what, you're a hard working brother, and you know at Grambling, you're always somebody down at Grambling. So that's why I really appreciate Grambling State University, and I love that school for what it does for the community and what it's done for HBCU as a whole. Now, I keep saying this, we got a lot of young people that watch this show. And see, I'm an HBCU historian, and I want to make sure they understand the proud history of our football and the SWAC. Now, a lot of people don't know that you were 4th in the Heisman Trophy running, okay? And a lot of people have heard this name, Earl Campbell. This man came in 4th. But I want you to kind of talk about the level of play and some of the players when you were in the SWAC that you played with and against during that time at the level of competition that allowed you to be 4th in the Heisman Trophy running.
But one school that always come to mind was Jackson State. You know, when I say Jackson State, it's 3 guys that was on the when I went to Grambling my freshman year. You know, it's 3 guys that was on that team that now wear gold jackets in Canton. Robert Brazile, Jackie Slade, and Walter Payton.
Wow.
All of them is in Canton. They was on that same team. And I'm not talking about Ricky Patton and Eddie Payton and what's my name? Vernon Perry and all them boys. And Ricky Young. All of them, Ricky Young drafted in the 3rd round. Jackie Slater 1st round. Robert Brazile 1st round. Walter Payton 1st round. I played against them guys. And that's the biggest, one of the biggest difference today, because you don't have that talent. And I'll say again, like going back to integration, you know, when you look at Alabama, when you look at Ole Miss, when you look at Mississippi State, when you look at Georgia, well, you know what? That was Jackson State, Grambling, Tennessee State, Southern University, Texas Southern. That's who that was. But you don't get that today because kids got an opportunity to go other places.
So what other teams when you played, like, who was somebody at Southern? Who was somebody at Texas Southern? Who was somebody at Prairie that you say, hey, man, when I played this guy, I remember what kind of impact he made? And also, who did you play with at Grambling that went on and played professional?
Well, you know what? I remember in 1973, I was a redshirt freshman. I was at the Space City Classic in Houston, Texas. A guy by the name of Harold Hard. We had no idea who in the hell Harold Hard was, but at the end of the game, we knew who he was. They was running that option man, Texas Southern. We haven't tackled Harold Hard yet. You know, they beat us that night. They beat us to death that night. You know, and Harold Hard lived in Tampa. When I got drafted in Tampa, man, I had to go shake Harold Hard's hand. Because, you know, when we was Grambling, when we got off the bus, man, let me tell you, my freshman and sophomore year, when we got off the bus, we were so cocky, basically, we was cocky in our own mind, per se. It wasn't something you wore out. It's what you believed in. You know, I had Sammy White, I had Dwight Scales, and we had James Hunter. You know, James Hunter was a 1st-round pick of the Detroit Lions. Sammy White was a 2nd rounder. Dwight Scales was a 5th rounder. You know, when Big Hand Johnson was the 1st round in San Diego Charger. Yep. Robert Barber was the 2nd round with the Steelers. Ezel Bill was the 4th rounder with the Giants. You know, them the guys I played with. You know, so when you talk about talent, I've seen talent at HBCUs, man, that is at the bigger schools couldn't even work with us. They wouldn't have played us. You know, there's no doubt in my mind that we couldn't beat Alabama, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and LSU back then. But they weren't gonna play us then. But I want
to say one thing. I want to make a point because see, you brought me to an inflection point. I think people don't understand that. See, the people that see LSU now, that wasn't LSU when I was growing up and beforehand.
No.
Because everybody knew, and people see LSU now. Oh, I said, listen, let me tell you something. In the 70s, LSU was a backwater team. They were a backwater team because of Grambling and especially you guys. Grambling was the flagship school in the state of Louisiana, just like Jackson State was versus Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
Let me tell you what Coach Rob used to tell us when, you know, this is the underdog tour, and you don't understand where he's coming from until you get older. You know, and we used to always say, Coach, why we don't play Tech, man? Why we don't play Monroe, Louisiana? Why we don't play LSU? You know, Baton Rouge is the capital, right? So all the politicians are where? In Baton Rouge. Yeah. Coach used to always say, hell, Cat, we ain't got nothing to gain by beating them people. He didn't say play them. He didn't say play them people. He said, hell, we ain't got nothing to gain by beating them people. Hell, don't you know all the politicians are in Baton Rouge? Hell, what will we get? We won't get nothing. Little Grambling, we ain't get nothing. We go down there and beat them people. You know,
Coach.
and at that time, it didn't register. But as you gotten older, you understood where he was coming from.
Now,
I want you to talk to our fans too, Coach. Coach, y'all sold out Yankee Stadium. You sold out the Bayou Classic, the Astrodome, the eighth wonder of the world. They stayed on the road. They stayed on the road, Coach. And that's what to our fans. Y'all talking about these little video crowds. That was every week in them days.
Well, you know, Coach Rob, our whole objective, Coach Rob had a mentality, and Grambling never played no more than 3 home games now. Right. Coach Rob had a mentality that half team will travel. That's what he say. You know, we played in Yankee Stadium every year. We played in Detroit. We played in LA. You know, we were the first team to play in Japan twice. We played in Hawaii. We played in Philadelphia. You know, we played. I remember Jimmy Carter was running for president. We sold it out at the space. What do you call it? Space City Classic.
Yeah.
Then we played in Dallas every year. You know, you talking about 50, 60,000 people. You know, then we got the Bayou Classic. We got that going. I mean, we had team will travel, and that's what Coach Rob believed in. And you couldn't wear no sweatsuit. You had to wear a tie, shirt, and a jacket to get on his bus.
Hey, Doug, let me ask you a couple questions about that. When I went back and looked up Grambling's history of opponents, like their record, right? They didn't have any wins against schools in the South, but they did have wins against teams that we know now, like Oregon and Oregon State and teams like that. What were some of your memorable victories? And they did have white players on those teams. What are some of your memorable victories or games against teams, not necessarily in the SWAC, but PWIs?
Oregon State and Portland, we beat them 19-12, and they called 2 back. How we played Hawaii twice, and we beat them over in Hawaii. And the other game was Temple up in Temple. Temple beat us 31-30. The next year we took them to Japan, and we beat them 35-32. So you know there was big schools back then compared to us. Yeah. So when you talk about Hawaii twice and Oregon State, man. You know, and then we almost I wasn't there, but they almost beat SMU when they was with Eric Dickerson and them boys. If it wasn't for a block punt, Grambling would have won the game. Yeah. And they was number 1 in the country.
Wow, that's amazing. So from where HBCUs are now, right? From a historical perspective, it's hard for those schools to even imagine having 3 Hall of Famers on one college team, having 8 or 9 people drafted off of one HBCU team. It's hard to imagine. But this is what I want to ask you. How can we make that rich history of HBCU football alive and well and relevant today? Because I think once students and faculty, alumni, and fans of today realize that, the profile of the programs will become more prominent, and they'll realize that they have something of extreme value that can be marketed to people outside of HBCUs and HBCU culture.
Well, number one, you know, we got to understand that and this the undergod truth. People always say, man, why we can't get so and so? It ain't gonna ever happen again. You know, what we had back then is not going to ever happen again. But what you can do, you can go out there and you recruit some kids that really want to be at your school, that might be like the day they put stars on certain players. You know, might be a 1-star, might be a 2-star. But by the time they leave the school, they might be 4 stars, you know, and be draftable. I think that's how you got to approach it. But at the same time, you got to put money back in the program. I know everybody don't have money, but whatever little, you got to try to help it get to the point where they look like a football team on the field and they coach well. But a lot of them go back to what you just say, the coaching part of it, man. When you got a bunch of guys who really don't know what they're doing, you know, they think they know, but you watch them, some of them on the sideline sometimes, they don't really know. They just on the sideline. You know, you just got to. I mean, even when I went back to coach, man, our league was pretty damn good then. You know, with the Cole boys and Jones and Alabama A&M and
Pete Richardson.
yeah, Pete Richardson and Monty Coleman and Pine Bluff. You know, we at least had staff and we knew what we were doing, and the kids wanted to play. And you know, unfortunately, we didn't have that transport portal. We had kids that wanted to be around the program, and the coaches wanted them around the program, and they understood they got to go to class and they got to play football.
That's right.
Today, I don't think that's relevant.
Let me piggyback off of Doug too. Like you said, Doug, I don't know if we can ever get back to that point, right? But at black colleges, we got to make football important. You know, you come up, and I can just speak for my university. You come up on campus, you don't see none of those trophies. You don't see none of those old pictures of those old players. We hate on each other, Doug. You know what I mean? Like you said earlier about the administration that knocks the head coach over to get the trophy. And we don't take that information and move it forward. And that's the problem. It gets lost where PWIs, they hold on to those things. You can go back to some PWIs and you can see back when they only played against each other championships. We don't, as you say, Rocky, I take it from you, and I'm going to just say on the show, you know, Doug, when we first met, he used to tell me, man, HBCUs, y'all don't take football serious. I got to agree with you that we don't. We only take it serious during the time that the season is happening, and when they up at some classic where the administration could be up there slicing ham and turkey while the coaches are down there, you know, coaching our ass off in sweat. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Coach Campbell. I know, we've been leaving you out, and I apologize.
No, not at all. Because first of all, it's on. But
this is our historian, Doug. This is my historian.
But we got a couple of things I thought was very interesting. A couple of questions in the chat. We got a lot of people watching.
Okay.
And one of the and I actually like this question. They wanted to talk about how you came about when you created the HBCU football game and things like that. And have you thought about helping EA Sports bring HBCU football teams into EA, or have you had any conversation? What was your thought process when you helped create that video game? And let's kind of talk about that, because you know all these kids playing video games now, how important that is.
Well, you know what? When we first created that video game, there's a lady in Baton Rouge, Louisiana named Jackie Beauchamp. She was the one that came up with the idea, and she created, but she ran into a roadblock because EA had something where she couldn't do it, whatever they have in contract. You know how that is. And we couldn't get around that contract to get a lot of stuff in that game. And that's why it never became a full game because of that.
Yeah, I got the copy of that game myself. I got the disc myself.
Well,
right.
Well, let me ask you this here, Doug, because I see a formula for making HBCUs kind of I ain't gonna say farm teams. I'll just put it like this. Say if the Washington Commanders adopted Gramblin's football program as part of their charity initiatives or whatever, and there was some joint marketing ventures, and you could do that with other professional teams, because we all know HBCUs could use a little push, right? And I believe now in the NIL era, you guys can do that and support not only the players and the programs, but the coaches, resources, and all that to improve the profile and exposure of HBCUs. Because I would love for there to be an HBCU football game every Saturday on the NFL channel. You know what I mean?
I mean, I understand that. That's wishful thinking.
Okay.
You know, the reason why they can't do it and won't do it because they're gonna look at it from a standpoint. If they do something like that, the other school gonna say, "What about us?" So, you know, you got some smaller schools that don't have no money either. So that's what you're gonna be up against. You know, and especially today, after yesterday, you ain't nowhere in the world something like that gonna happen. So you can almost forget that.
Now, I don't know if you know, Doug, but the owner of the Atlantic Falcons granted 5 of the HBCU schools. He redone all their turf. Clark, Fort Valley, Miles, Morehouse. Morehouse. he redone all that. What's his name? I think
Arthur Blank.
Arthur Blanks.
Let me say this about Arthur Blank. The reason why not the reason why we started, but the reason why we were successful with the Black College Football Hall of Fame, Arthur Blank is one of our biggest sponsors.
Okay.
So Arthur Blank is one of those persons who give back to HBCUs. He understands what it's about and how important it is.
Philanthropy.
So yeah, I know Arthur did that.
Okay.
He's good. He's a good individual with that.
Okay.
Doug, let me ask you a question. I know we're wrapping up. We got to, as you said, it's a new era. What would you tell players now that are at HBCUs what they need to focus on, what they need to do to improve their craft, how they can even get to a point of what they need to do to even get a tryout for teams? You know what I mean? Because a lot of times you got to help yourself to get on the team. So what would you advise a lot of these young players now?
Well, first of all, we got to look at it from a talent standpoint. They got to bring some talent with whatever they're doing. And like I said, don't start when they become a senior. Start when you become a student at the university, and you know that's what you want to do, and you got the ability to get it done. And you got to be real with yourself too. And every position got a size or something that they want to look for. If you're offensive lineman and you 6'1", 280 pounds, you can almost forget it. That ain't gonna happen. I mean, that's real. And that's not killing dreams. You just telling the truth, But if you got guys that got the size, you got guys that got the speed, the defensive back, running back, wide receiver, offensive lineman, you got the size that they're looking for up there. It starts at an early age, not the late age. And you got to work on what it takes to get there. I mean, all the agility drills, and it's not, it's not one of those things where it's football season, I'm gonna work on it. All right. It's off season. I ain't doing nothing. No, this year round. You'll be surprised how much these boys now up here in this league, they working all the time. Even when they're off, they working. Like yesterday was an off day. Everybody was in that. You can hit a weight room in that clinking and stuff like that. Ain't nobody laying up and saying, me and my girl going to town. We ain't got time to work out. No, me and my girl go after the game on Sunday, but right now I'm trying to work to get to Sunday. So I think it all depends on how hard you want it, how hard you want to work, and what technique that you want to work on to get whatever position you play. Those are techniques that you need to work on.
Yeah. Coach, you won 4 championships in the SWAC?
Yes.
Give me 3 things that I know, of course, we've been in the game. So when we go to games, we evaluate games instead of watching them. We're watching the coach. We're watching, how the team react. Give me 3 things that you do that that this is how I get to where I want to get to the championship.
Well, number one, the night before the game, one thing you do is not so much a speech to pep them up, as much as a speech to let them know we're here, and you got to understand how we got here, and what it's going to take to get it done tomorrow, whatever we play. And at that time, Coach Rob used to always say that when we get to that point on Friday night, the hay is in the barn. Ain't nothing else we can do. The hay is in the barn. And now the next step is you got to let them know we're going to let the peace dove fly tomorrow. You let the peace dove fly tomorrow. The hay is in the barn tonight, but the peace dove going to fly tomorrow. And you also got to let them know you have to put that mentality into them. You kill a gnat with a sledgehammer. Yeah. If you got a chance, you got to take advantage of it. Whatever miscue you made, don't worry about it. Keep going forward. Don't tell me that those fish is cheating. Those fish ain't cheating. You just got to outscore them. Yeah. And those are things that you can't let your kids get to the point that they start refereeing and calling the game and saying, Coach, if they holding you, run faster. Don't let them hold you. You got to do stuff like that. Yeah. And it's just a matter of getting the guy's mindset, man, and let them know this is championship. We're here, and we didn't come here to go home with our head down. We came here to go back with the trophy. And I can honestly say, the 4 times I've been there, we was in there with you all once. And matter of fact, I was talking
I ran a double reverse on you.
Hey, I was just talking to the kid. I don't know if you remember the kid that jumped up in the end zone to make that catch. You can tell that's the only catch he made all year. But you know, it was
Coach, he was flat. He was flat out when he caught that one.
It was championship game, and he understood what we was talking about. I just talked to him the other day, and you know, he just called me and said, "Coach, I appreciate everything you did." You know, and you got to have kids who appreciate what you're doing, because you know what, it ain't about you; it's about the kid. Because all of them went on to graduate, doing something, and go from there.
Yeah, without a doubt, Coach.
Hey, my name is Danny Wilson, and I won $500 on the lunch break with AJ Jones.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.